Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my film review of the latest and greatest installment in the X-Men movie series, The Wolverine. So, for those of you who want to know the skinny on everything about the movie, you've seen it and you just want to like flesh this out with somebody, then stick around because I will very soon dive into the thick of things. But first of all, for those of you who have not yet seen the movie, because it just came out today, I saw an advance showing, I guess, last night, aka July 25th. And so, you know, I was going ham, I was premiering it, so I saw it last night, but for those of you who haven't gotten to see it yet, and you basically just want to know my personal impression of the movie, then I will give that to you guys very shortly. So I'll let you know once we are entering the spoiler zone, so there's no confusion and hatred towards me from you, because I want us to be friends. So, you know, I figure I will do my best to serve the needs of the masses, many and varied though they may be, if I can actually talk. And as you guys might actually be able to see, up here, I got a special freaking poster for attending the premiere. And it literally, I love it. I like pressed it against my face when I got it because it feels like a giant sticker. I don't know, like it's so glossy and just like you want to like roll in it. Except for the part where you don't, because you want to put it on your wall and, you know, have a poster that doesn't look like it's been rolled on. So anyways, I was really excited about that. But then I found out that the 3D theater, which, you know, I didn't go to the 3D showing because I didn't really feel the calling, I suppose. But they got free Wolverine t-shirts, so I'm slightly bitter about that. But, you know, I'm gonna move on and actually get to my thoughts about the movie. So, there's been a lot of hype for this film, and yet at the same time I knew a lot of people who were like, wait, there's a new Wolverine movie coming out? You know, it's like, it was almost like half underground, but then the people who were like tuned in were really focused, like such as myself. And so it was directed by James Mangold, and of course starring the one and only Hugh Jackman, who he has broken the record for the highest number of portrayals of a single fictional character in film by a single actor. As of the sequel to X-Men First Class, which is going to be X-Men Days of Future Past, which I'm crazy excited for, that'll be his 7th appearance on the big screen as Wolverine. I mean, pretty much like flesh and blood, they are one by now. They are married individuals. And you know, if I was him, I don't think I'd mind that, you know? So, yeah, and it was really stressed by the makers of the film that they wanted to, you know, learn from their mistakes from X-Men Origins, of which we do not speak, those of us who are fans of the X-Men movie series. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit trail. But, you know, they wanted to create a standalone film that's really rooted in a rich comic story. So taken directly from comic lore instead of like completely inventing the whole thing, which has kind of been done in the past. So, you know, with The Last Stand, for instance, the 3rd movie of the original X-Men trilogy. Another one which we don't speak about, but yet the film The Wolverine had to work from. So they wanted to make a film that's really character-based, you know, not trying to cram in tons of other mutants, you know, like we're focusing on the Wolverine, on a story that has been celebrated and adored by many comic fans. It's the 1982 miniseries of The Wolverine. Written and drawn by Frank Miller and Chris Claremont, I believe. So they're kind of a dream team. You know, a lot of people are really invested in the storyline in which we see Wolverine going to Japan and kind of exploring like the samurai tradition and his love for Mariko, and, you know, getting his ass whooped by the ninjas and the samurai and, you know, all that jazz. And I think it's a very cool story. I've only read like the first issue of the miniseries, but I loved what I read. There's this really cool kind of like inner monologue thing going on with Wolverine, and I just love the tone that it has and just like the texture of it. I don't know how to explain it. But, you know, they're really, with the Wolverine, you know, this is really an opportunity for redemption within the X-Men film universe. And I personally do believe that it really was redemptive in a lot of ways. I really enjoyed it. The action was great. It was sharp and humorous, and Hugh Jackman is on the ball as ever and looking mighty fine, if I do say so. He actually like got on Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's training program in order to beef up from, you know, his Les Mis bodily status and get into the zone to be the Wolverine, okay? So it's like, that is some serious dedication. I think that, you know, would make him feel all the more like the Wolverine, being that he's got the bod, you know? All you need to do is give the beast some claws and let her rip. No pun intended, but yeah, so I love the movie. I guess if I was to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it like an 8. Like an 8.5 if I'm in a good mood or looking at some aspect of the movie that I really loved. 7.5 on an off day, looking at some of the things that were like lacking. But overall, I was a huge fan. I loved it, and I think that all of you guys should go see it in theaters for yourself. You know, don't listen to what the critics say, just kind of, you know, compose your own vision. So that being said, yeah, it was wonderful. You know, I don't think it was as cohesive as, say, X-Men First Class in terms of like different story elements, but it was worlds better than the atrocity that was X-Men Origins. So I will tell you that much. It sits nicely in the middle. It's like I said, it's really redemptive of previous mistakes that were made in the X-Men films. A really great story, awesome setting, you know, really authentic set design. Just, it was fun. I had a great time, and I think that it's really, you know, the Wolverine film that we've been waiting for in many respects. That being said, I'm going to get into spoiler territory here so I can break down for you in greater detail the things that kind of disappointed or were, you know, kind of lackluster for me, and the things that I really loved. So let's dive in. And let me just say that as far as like Marvel heroes go, you know, I love the Avengers. I truly do. I understand, you know, why there's such a mass appeal for them, and why, you know, the Avengers film did so well, and all the individual films, you know, Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, all that jazz. But deep down at heart, I am a freaking X-Men girl, okay? Like, since about middle school. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys ever played the X-Men Legends games on GameCube, but that's actually what got me into, like, it really initiated me into the whole Marvel universe and into X-Men specifically. So my two favorite X-Men are, well, Wolverine, hello, and Jean Grey / the Phoenix, actually, because I really like to play her character in the game, because you could freaking like psychic blast the crap out of people. It's all like pretty and pink and swirling, and you could just make everybody dizzy and flop around. And then you could also freaking throw things across the room. Like, the telekinesis, that is what sold me. And so I really fell in love with her character based on, you know, the things that she's capable of, and then got more into her backstory. And then the Wolverine is just, I don't know. It was freaking love at first sight. I really can't explain the intrinsic connection that I feel to him, but I think it's one that's shared by a lot of people in Wolverine. I think that he, you know, he's the most interesting man in the world as far as Marvel is concerned. Well, maybe not the most, but he's up there on the pedestal. There's some other characters who are really rich in terms of badassery. But, you know, the Wolverine, there's a reason why there have been so many films and so many portrayals of him. We can't get enough. It's that feral rage and the instinct and the passion and all of that. And that comes forth so richly in this movie. Now, for those of you who have read the comic miniseries upon which this movie is based, I'd love to hear your thoughts in terms of, like, you know, which you liked better, what aspects you enjoyed as far as, you know, the way the Wolverine portrayed things, etc. Like I said, I've only read the first issue, and so it's, you know, here, let me explain the things that bothered me about the movie first and foremost. Number one, and I feel really weird about saying this because I don't often say this about a lot of films, but I really wanted more like visceral, bloody action, okay? I mean, say of me what you will, but I was like, you know, watching those action sequences, they were fast and they were beautifully done, but it was just like, I was kind of expecting more of a gore factor. I mean, Wolverine is freaking tearing people apart. And yet, you know, ironically, the comic miniseries in and of itself was not terribly bloody or graphic in that respect. So it might be some more of like recent comic traditions that have birthed in me this desire for bloodshed and crazy violent warfare. But I mean, like, there is a lot of action that I loved in the movie, like the train scene. I thought that was very well done. It was extremely entertaining, as well as, you know, it really raised the hair on the back of your neck. The final battle sequence with the Silver Samurai and how it was like pulling out his freaking adamantium, chopping off his claws, like, that hurt me. I was literally like going like this during that scene, because I was just like, I don't even know what that's like, and I feel your pain, okay? It just like, it resonated with me. I could feel it in my knuckles and in my soul. So I mean, that was really cool. I was just kind of expecting more blood, and you know, we see like the most that we really get is when at the funeral scene when Wolverine gets shot, you know, and he's bleeding and stumbling around. Like, he is freaking resilient, healing power or no. I mean, it's like, I don't understand. He got shot, I swear, like 20 times, and he's still just trekking around being like, you think that's the end of me, bub? Well, it ain't. And that's just classic Wolverine for you. But yeah, so I was kind of expecting more blood. Call me weird, but that's kind of what I wanted. But then again, you know, it's like they dropped an F-bomb and different, you know, like they kind of like filled their PG-13 quota, I guess. So meh. You know, probably trying to make sure that they are still appealing to the masses and to fans who are like not as into the crazy dark side, I suppose. Another thing that was frustrating to me was that it seemed like there were too many villains, or at least like the way that the movie was paced. Like Viper, for instance, you know, she's working for oh, what's the guy? I have to look at this on IMDb really quick because I can't remember his name. Yashida. Yeah. So she's working for like the family, and she, you know, gets Wolverine and strips him of his powers and sets them all up, you know, for the big battle with the Silver Samurai, etc., etc. But she really seems to have like her own kind of motive in this, you know. It's like she's the classic seductress, and, you know, she has that whole line where she's talking about all the things she is, like a nihilist and a blah, blah, blah. You know, it kind of reminded me of that classic quintessential Iron Man line, the billionaire playboy philanthropist thing. It kind of made me think of that. But it seemed like she could have had just her own agenda, like separate from working with the family, you know? And so she almost kind of came across to me more like filler. Like, I don't know, just the way that she was portrayed, it was sort of like she was an instrument in this whole thing, but yet she kind of acted as though she had her like own motive, and that really wasn't like followed through on exactly. I mean, maybe that's just me. Let me know what you guys thought of her. Also, she had a gargantuan freaking mole. I mean, I was quite distracted by that in the close-ups on her face. I was like, whoa Nelly, that right there is a beauty mark. It made me a little uncomfortable, I have to say. Kind of like, I was kind of going like Austin Powers there for a bit, but yeah, so, you know, and like it's always tricky to really pull off a compelling villain or assortment of villains, and I think there's a certain pressure in a lot of superhero films to bring in as many different characters as possible to appeal to the different desires of a very diverse audience. You know, there are tons and tons of characters in the Marvel Universe. And, you know, and I think that Viper is integrated into the original comic storyline. So, you know, there's all these different layers of villains. There's like Mariko's father, and then the fiance, and then the grandfather. She's just pretty, you know, Yukio is pretty much all she's got. The ladies gotta stick together, you know, and they really do. So I appreciated that display of feminine power and the power of friendship, I guess. Yeah, but you know, I think that pacing wise, as far as like giving each villain like their own moment, like not all of them were really followed through on, at least from my perspective. So I mean, like the Silver Samurai battle was intense and I was really frustrated and like going crazy during that last scene, but you know, it was just, I don't know. You know, I personally like it when there's like one big villain, you know, and everything is made to tie into that, you know, one antagonist. And so, you know, it's really tough, and that's kind of like what happened in X-Men The Last Stand, where it was like they're kind of doing the Dark Phoenix thing, but then the humans versus mutants war, and just shenanigans ensued, okay? So let me know what you guys thought about the way that the different villains were portrayed, you know? Like, it was okay, but, and another thing that frustrated me was that the romance with Mariko, between Logan and Mariko, it felt kind of contrived in contrast to the living memory of Jean Grey that Wolverine carries with him. Now, I say this with extremely mixed feelings because I personally really love the Wolverine-Jean Grey pairing, and I find that to be a very fascinating and complex relationship that I really enjoy seeing the dynamics of that, and I'm glad that they weren't afraid to explore that in the films either. So, you know, I think that to some extent they were trying to provide, you know, some continuity and the next logical step from X-Men The Last Stand, because we find, instead of Wolverine still considering himself to be part of the X-Men and going on this Japan mission, you know, and just taking care of his side business, you know, we find Wolverine has left the X-Men entirely. We see him incredibly vulnerable and incredibly low, and Jean Grey kind of functions as this symbol of Wolverine's psyche, you know, like what's worth living for, and you know, like she represents not only death but a sense of peace, you know, the end of his striving and his struggles, and he is the kind of character who strives so fiercely. And so, you know, I really like the way that she was drawn into the story, how, you know, it's always when he's sleeping at night, so it's like kind of this sort of like gentle, haunting kind of nightmare, you know, so every time like she's laying down on her side next to him, there's this sort of seduction, the longing to be with her, to be one with death and peace. He's struggled long enough, you know, and so in tying that storyline into this story, it kind of takes away from a relationship that was really rich and, you know, legitimized in the comic story, which is kind of disappointing, because it's like I wanted to be compelled by the whole thing that was going on with Mariko, but it was really kind of predictable and a little bit, you know, it was a little bit meh for me. I kind of wanted more from it. I wanted to be more compelled by her, but it always kept coming back to Jean Grey, you know, like she is Wolverine's one true love. And then in the end, you know, I'm glad that they brought the symbolism full circle, you know, in the end, like finally Jean Grey, instead of laying down beside him, she stands up and walks away toward the window, the balcony, in this room in Wolverine's thoughts. You know, he says that like he can't join her, he can't be with her, because he's found a reason to keep trekking on in the life that he has, and there's a purpose for him there, which, you know, it doesn't lessen his love for Jean Grey or the regret that he feels because of what happened to her in The Last Stand. But, you know, so basically I love Jean Grey and Wolverine. I love them both as characters separately and in their togetherness, I guess. And if you guys have questions about that, you can chat with me in the comments. But I was just disappointed that it made it, you know, difficult for me to get on board with what was happening with Mariko. She just kind of seemed, there was a certain magnetism to their connection that I didn't really feel, because it always kept coming back to Jean Grey. And originally that wasn't part of the comic story, nor was, you know, the concept of Wolverine having abandoned the X-Men and going Lone Ranger. But at the same time, I think that it really worked, you know, seeing him in this place that is so low and full of despair, and he's ready to die, and he is right on that edge at so many points, you know, reaching into like his own heart at one point. That was a really cool scene. You know, we see like Yukio is trying to defend him so he can like get the little freaking parasite nasty dude out of his soul. And that was a really cool scene. There's a lot of great humor as well. Like the scene where, you know, Wolverine, like he's all hairy caveman status and they gotta clean him up to see Grandpa. And that scene totally reminded me of like the preparing of the Beast, like from Beauty and the Beast, for his dinner with Belle. It was such like a Disney moment. But yeah, so there's a lot of humor in that, you know, like the kind of makeshift surgery that they have for Wolverine, like after he got shot all those bajillions of times, and you know, at the little hotel. And there's just a lot of humorous moments. I really liked Yukio as a character. I kind of thought that I was going to be annoyed by her, but I really enjoyed what she had to offer. So yeah, what did you guys think of the film? Was it everything you dreamed and more? What were you guys looking for? You know, I liked it. I really did. I would see it again. I think it's a far cry better than Origins. I liked that they lifted this really celebrated comic arc to the screen. At the same time, you know, it was a little bit confusing to try and tie in like the continuity of you know, between the previous films, the one that like, you know, nobody else even liked, but at the same time, you know, they're trying to fulfill a certain responsibility, you know, to not only create like this a unique standalone film that's very character focused, but to also acknowledge the other stories. And who knows, maybe everything will be fixed in Days of Future Past, because, spoiler alert, time travel. So that being said, stick around at the end of the credits, of course, because we get that cool scene, you know, Wolverine's in the airport, bam, there's Magneto, bam, there's Professor X. Everybody's got their powers back, you know. You're not the only one with gifts, Logan. Everybody in the theater went nuts. It was a party in there, because, I mean, I inevitably, you know, I knew that they were going to be coming back, but it was just so satisfying to see, you know, the two big guns back in the business, and to get kind of the hint at the propaganda from Trask Industries making the Sentinels. I'm super excited to finally see Sentinels on the screen. That is going to be awesome, awesome, awesome. So crazy excited for Days of Future Past. You know, they really set the bar high with First Class. I think it's cool that they're actually like tying in the Wolverine to you know, the sort of reboot that they've done for the X-Men, which is interesting because Origins just kinda, you know, it just sorta happened and then it just walked away, you know? It was like that scene in the Origins movie where Wolverine's like walking through the flames. It's like, here's the movie, you know, this explosion, and we're just all kinda like, let's move on to the next thing and not think about that, shall we? Yeah, but it was a great movie. I also really liked at the beginning, you know, the whole Wolverine and the bear and like dealing with the hunters and stuff. Like that was almost kind of like directly taken from the comic, at least the one that I read, and just the symbolism, you know, between the bear and Wolverine. It's like he's a wounded animal and nobody bothered to put him down like before he hurt people. And so I like the parallels. The writing was pretty good, but again, they really kind of seemed to like stuff in a lot of villains. Maybe it was just the pacing of it, because I think that a lot of these figures were like involved in the original comic story, but it's just, you know, it's just the pacing, I think. Other than that, I'm a pretty happy camper. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I can't wait to review more X-Men Marvel craziness with you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with more reviews and shenanigans before you know it.